What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, as well as a very vocal Luca. Are you going to come up right away? I think you're going to come up right away. And we're returning to The Glove and the 1983 album Blue Sunshine. Thank you again to Nicola. And this is, as we talked about leading up to this deep dive, but in the first reaction in it as well, The Glove is Robert Smith from The Cure and Steven Severin from Susie and the Banshees. And I think Jeanette Landry, am I remembering her surname correctly? She's the vocalist on this album, and I think there are some other guest performers as well. In any case, the second track is Looking Glass Girl. An intriguing title, a looking glass. Typically that means a handheld telescope, a phrase perhaps used more in earlier times, but ultimately it is a tool that allows for long-distance visual perception that is beyond the capabilities of our normal eyes. Now, I wonder if the looking glass girl is the girl holding the looking glass, if it's a girl seen through a looking glass, or if it's some sort of figurative metaphor in relation to the distance between perception and physical proximity. I feel like there's some interesting figurative meanings you could derive from that, but ultimately, having only heard one tune and the phrase itself being a bit poetic or abstract, or at least unclear without wider context, a larger sentence, if you will. I don't quite know what to make of it, but I'll see what I can catch on a first listen. This is The Glove. The track is Looking Glass Girl, and it's from their 1983 album Blue Sunshine. Like a microscope instead? So that almost seemed like it was fading. I was thinking in the moment that it was rolling right into the next tune, but even that little extra bit seemed like it was fading, though it was still active when the track cut it off. In the moment, I'm forgetting. Give me one moment, and then I will talk about the track we just heard, which is fascinating, though I'm not sure I have any greater insight into the Looking Glass Girl. But I want to make sure, because sometimes I forget, and people are like, oh, you know, you should listen to the next two tracks in a row because they're essentially part of the same suite. No, it doesn't look like there's any indication of that in the comments that we got. And shout out to AK, as well as Chris and Briz and Ducted DJ. So yeah, shout out to all of you, but it doesn't look like anyone said that. Sometimes after I finish a reaction, I'll look at the previous reaction in the same deep dive, and people will say, oh, make sure you do a 2-for-1 for the next one. Nevertheless, I will try to come back quicker. I hadn't realized it had been about a month since I did the Glove Creatures tandem last time. I'll try to come back in the next couple weeks, and we'll get through these albums in tandem more quickly. In any case, yes, so number one, the lyrics, I don't quite know what to make of it, but I wondered when it sounded like she was saying in your tiny world or something to that effect. I wondered, okay, wait, are we talking looking glasses and microscope, which is another term that was used for very early microscopes. But I was also thinking that in a telescope, an old style looking glass, you know, for people at sea or for, you know, surveyors and so on, it does condense everything that you're looking at, even if you can see it more closely from a great distance than with your natural eyes. It still compresses everything that you're seeing, the entire world that you're beholding through the looking glass, into a very narrow circle or sphere, or not sphere, ellipse, or otherwise rounded but not fully circular, which is like a, you know, geometric specification. I'll stop talking about that, but the point is, it does condense everything down to a smaller frame of view. So in that regard, I thought maybe we are still talking about a looking glass in a telescopic sense, but I don't quite know what to make of what she was saying, in part because a lot of the lyrics, they felt a bit echoed, and I think her voice was layered, so there were moments where I was hearing the vocals more than the lyrics per se. But yes, it does make me wonder, because at first the line was, like a looking glass girl, which is simile. You're saying there are similarities, characteristics shared, but in terms of identity or fundamental character, she is not actually a looking glass girl. It's just as or like a looking glass girl. But then later, there was a direct indication of identity, the looking glass girl, which is a specific imbuing or designation in that regard. So I really don't know what to make of the lyrics, but it does sound like there is some distinction between a normal scale and wherever she is or what she's looking at as being smaller or microscopic compared to the larger dynamic or environment. So yeah, ultimately I'm looking forward to hearing what people might have to say about the lyrics, but sonically, definitely the percussive rhythm, that almost cowbell style rhythm, really did stand out. The guitar work was a bit dreamy, it felt a bit soundscape-ish. And yes, ultimately, I don't know quite what that was in terms of the stringed instrument. I'm guessing it was just a violin slash fiddle, which I think is more about how you're playing it rather than a distinct instrument per se. But yes, I think that was what was giving us the very elegant and quite enjoyable string layer to the sonic composition. And yes, ultimately it is a tune that then seemed to shift at the end, which I'm guessing was maybe a presaging of the next track, or perhaps just an idiosyncratic, what's the right word, coda on the end of the tune overall. So yeah, a really interesting one. Curious to hear what people have to make of this. Let me know, and once again, thank you to Nicola for providing this, and other folks for bringing up this cross-pollination collaboration to begin with, once I heard there was a collaboration between Robert of the Cure and someone from Susie and the Banshees, I was very intrigued, so nice that we get to go through it. Do let me know what you think, and Luca will now depart before I do, and we will both see you next time. Peace.